I came home from deployment on a quiet Monday morning expecting jet lag and silence. Instead, I found a concrete slab where my workshop used to be. 5 years of sweat tools and sanity gone. And standing there smiling like she'd just won a raffle was the HOA president holding a clipboard and telling me it was community maintenance. I still remember the sound my tires made pulling into the driveway. Gravel crunching, the engine ticking as it cooled. 10 months overseas will wire your brain to notice small details like that. I hadn't even killed the engine before something felt wrong, too open, too empty. My eyes drifted past the house to the backyard, to the spot that should have been familiar, and my stomach dropped. The workshop was gone. Not damaged, not boarded up. Gone. Leveled. Reduced to a bare concrete slab with a few splinters scattered around like bones after a fire. I sat there gripping the steering wheel duffel bag still on the passenger seat dust from halfway around the world, still on my boots thinking maybe the exhaustion had finally caught up with me. Maybe I was hallucinating. I stepped out of the truck. The air smelled wrong. No sawdust, no oil, no wood, just dirt and fresh tire tracks. That workshop wasn't just a building. It was where I fixed neighbors' furniture, where I rebuilt engines, where I went when my head wouldn't shut up after deployments. It was the one place that made me feel normal again. "What the hell?" I muttered. That's when I heard the heels, sharp, deliberate, click, 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 coming down the sidewalk like a metronome set to bad news. I turned already knowing who it was before I saw her. Melissa Carter, HOA president, mid-50s. Bleached blonde bob that never moved, pink cardigan, oversized sunglasses, clipboard clutched to her chest like it was part of her anatomy. She looked perfectly put together, like she'd planned this moment. "Oh," she said, tilting her head, "you're back early." I stared at her, then back at the empty slab, then back at her. "Where's my workshop?" She followed my gaze like she hadn't already rehearsed this. "Oh, that old thing." She smiled. Yes, the board had it removed. It was in violation of community standards. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp and hollow. "You demolished my building while I was deployed." "Well," she said, waving a manicured hand, "you didn't respond to our letters." "I was in Iraq." She blinked once like she'd just heard something mildly inconvenient. "That's not really an excuse for ignoring HOA correspondence now, is it?" That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not exploded. Not yet. Just tightened. "You tore down a permitted structure. Do you have any idea how illegal that is?" Her smile flickered. Just for a second. "The board approved it unanimously." "You mean you and your 2 friends?" I said. "That's not a board. That's a book club with a power trip." Her jaw clenched. "Watch your tone, Mr. Harper." I stepped closer. "You better hope you documented every single thing you did, because I'm not letting this go." She straightened her shoulders. "You're welcome to file a complaint." "I'm not filing a complaint," I said quietly. "I'm filing a lawsuit." I walked past her and into my house, still trying to process the fact that while I was serving my country, someone decided they had the right to erase part of my life because it offended their aesthetic. The first night back, I didn't sleep. Jet lag, adrenaline, anger, it all blended together. I kept replaying her smile in my head. The way she said that old thing, like it was junk, like it hadn't mattered. By morning, I was already on the phone with a real attorney, not one of the HOA's wine night friends who pretended to know the law. By the end of the week, I had every permit inspection report receipt and blueprint spread across my kitchen table. 5 years' worth of proof that my workshop was legal compliant and none of their damn business. Then I found the HOA meeting minutes. That's when I knew they were in trouble. The demolition invoice alone was enough to make my lawyer raise an eyebrow. Paid out of the HOA's discretionary maintenance fund, just under the amount that would have required a community vote. Clever, dirty, and when we traced the contractor, surprise, registered to Melissa's nephew. I took everything to the sheriff's office, sat across from a detective who didn't blink when I said they demolished it without a court order. She flipped through the paperwork, tapping her pen slower and slower. "This is criminal mischief," she said, "possibly fraud." For the first time since I got home, I felt like someone was actually listening. That feeling didn't last long. The HOA didn't back off. If anything, they doubled down. Notices appeared on my door. Grass too high. Trash can visible. a warning about ongoing non-compliance. I stood there one afternoon holding a notice about my lawn being an inch too tall, staring at the empty slab behind my house, and something in me cracked. I thought about dropping it. I won't lie about that. There was a night I remember it clearly, standing barefoot on the concrete moon overhead, the neighborhood quiet. I felt tired in a way that had nothing to do with deployment. Just tired of fighting, tired of paperwork, tired of reliving the loss every time I explained it to someone new. I asked myself if maybe I was being stubborn, if maybe it would be easier to let it go, build something smaller, move on. I'd survived worse, right? But then I thought about what that would mean, that they could do this, to me, to anyone. That silence was permission. The next morning my neighbor George knocked on my door with a binder under his arm. Retired teacher, quiet guy. I heard what they did, he said. Thought you should see this. The binder was full of complaints, emails, letters, fines for imaginary violations, kids' bikes confiscated, mailbox flags the wrong shade of red, page after page of people getting pushed around because no one wanted trouble. This is theft, George said, and it's been happening for years. That was my turning point. From that moment on, I stopped reacting and started hunting. Cameras went up, documents got scanned, neighbors started talking, and when the next HOA meeting rolled around, it wasn't just me who showed up. The clubhouse was packed. Melissa was already seated at the head of the table, flanked by her loyal board members. Her smile vanished when she saw my attorney's briefcase. "This is a closed meeting," she said. "Not anymore," my lawyer replied, sliding state statutes across the table. Open governance law. What followed wasn't a meeting, it was a reckoning. Neighbors stood up one by one. Fines, threats, misused funds. My demolished workshop photo hit the table like a punch. The treasurer admitted she'd been signing checks without documentation. One board member looked like he was about to cry. Melissa tried to regain control, tried to talk over people, tried to dismiss it all as misunderstandings. But the paper trail was relentless. Subpoenas don't care about your tone. By the end of that night, she was suspended. An interim board was appointed, and I was sitting in my truck afterward, hands shaking, not from anger this time, but from the realization that it was actually working. The call came a few days later. The contractor, nervous voice. "We're ready to rebuild the workshop, no charge. Send everything to my attorney," I said, "and it better match exactly what was there before." The rebuild started under scrutiny. Inspectors, measurements, neighbors watching from their driveways like it was a live show. And then one afternoon, Melissa showed up at my door. No clipboard, no cardigan, just a wrinkled blouse and fear in her eyes. "They're charging me," she said. "I'm going to lose everything." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing. "You already took everything from me," I said. "Now live with it." I closed the door. A week later, the workshop frame stood where the slab had been. Another week and the roof was on. Another meeting and the vote passed to permanently remove her from the board. When the charges became public fraud, misuse of funds, retaliation, the smile she'd worn for years finally disappeared. Cameras showed up. Lawyers stopped returning her calls. Power evaporates fast when it's exposed. The day the cease and desist letter landed on her desk, ending her authority for good, I stood in my half-finished workshop and listened to the quiet. Not the empty quiet from before, but a solid one. Earned. The HOA didn't break me. They reminded me why you never stay silent when someone decides they own what you built. Because the moment you fight back, the whole illusion collapses.